So welcome to the Paignton Picture House. My name is Paul Hawthorne. I'm chair of the trustees of the Picture House Trust. So we bought this wonderful building in November 2015 and we're managing fundraising the restoration of the building for the future of Paignton from Torbay. So here we are in the auditorium. You get a sense here very clearly of how impressive the building was when it was built and is now. The scale of the building here with its very high ceiling is very remarkable and was at the time. You've got these beautiful decorations in terms of, in the auditorium here, these 1930s Art Deco lights that were made in Paignton apparently. It's really a first-class venue for coming to see films here, and that's what the original Picture House company would have wanted. So it's quite a big cinema. We had a capacity of something like 450 people here when it opened. When it closed in 1999, that was down to about 370 people here. So, but it's a big space. For Torbay, it's a big space, and it will be again, because this will be reopened principally as a cinema, but as well as a venue for the people, the community, to come in and enjoy film and similar sort of experiences that work in a space like this. So what we have here, you've got, originally you'd have had a very ornate arch around the screen. The first films that would have been shown here are of course silent, so you had an orchestra pit here with some musicians, principally a pianist, accompanying all of the films. As time went on, sound was introduced, so you'd have had actual sound on records played alongside the film before ultimately sound and picture were combined on one piece of film in the projection room. The screen you see today, this is the CinemaScope screen that was put in, so not the original screen, but they say that behind here on the back wall of the cinema is a silver nitrate painted rectangle, which is the original silver screen that people would have spoken about. So this is very much the heart of the building. This is where all of the public would have come in. It was opened in 1914. Very soon after the opening, the First World War would have broken out, and this space then was quickly adapted to be used for recruitment for the forces. And the elders of the town would have stood on the stage behind me and spoken to full houses of the need to sign up for King and Country. So all of this history has been seen here, in particular as well. Not just the pandemic now, but the pandemic of 1919, the cinema would have been in operation. There were no lockdowns at that time. All of the controls were done regionally. So for cinemas, what would have happened was the cinemas were required to, after 2 screenings, to have a break of half an hour, open all the doors and windows, and allow the building to air for half an hour before starting again. So here we're in the circle, the balcony of the cinema. So this was, we've got the next stage up in terms of more expensive seats with a better view. And then behind us at the back, 3 private boxes. So the fact the Picture House still retains the 3 private boxes is one of the reasons why it's considered so special in one of the top 5 cinema buildings in the country, because almost no cinema has managed to hang on to those. So this is a very special place. When it opened in 1914, rather than having fixed seats, the newspaper articles tell us there was loose seating on this level. So at some point early on, the fixed seats would have been installed. And this was also our most famous patron, was the crime writer Agatha Christie, whose home, Greenway, is just a couple of stops down the steam railway next door. So this was Agatha Christie's local cinema when she was at Greenway, and she used to love coming here, and her the place where she sat was always kept for her, the same place each time, was here, row 2, seat 2, and on the outside her chauffeur, who would have driven her here from Greenway, would have sat. So lots of places in Torbay benefit greatly from the association with Agatha Christie, as does Torbay itself. But we're lucky here in the Trust that from the beginning we've enjoyed a very good relationship with Agatha Christie's family and with the board of Agatha Christie Limited. And they've been very supportive of us and are so on an ongoing basis. So we were fortunate enough to show Matthew Pritchard, Agatha Christie's grandson, and his son James round here on a tour, and that contact has confirmed that all the stories of how fond Agatha Christie was of the cinema are indeed true, and there are people on the board of Agatha Christie today, Agatha Christie Limited, who have fond memories of coming here with her to watch films in the cinema. So that's a very special part of our story, and one that, when you look at what sort of cinema will be when we open, one that will help us shape and be unique and draw people in, is being able to count on Agatha Christie as part of that story. So here we are in the projection room of the picture house, then right at the top of the building. You can see looking up onto the roof through these skylights here. And these wonderful projectors here date from the 1950s. So these were the projectors that were in place when the cinema closed in 1999. And for a long time this floor looked simply as if they'd shut the doors on that last night and abandoned it. You know, for a long time people used to say you could find the old fish and chip wrappers, which was the last meal of the projectionists, in the bins here, things like that. So they're both from the 1950s. This here will be the one that's restored and brought back to life in the cinema, because even though we'll have digital projection here, having the original analog projectors that we see as very, very important. We want this building to be able to celebrate the history of cinema, to be able to have, to draw on the vast network, the vast library of historic films that you can get from the archives, and to be able to take full advantage of this. We'd like to see, for example, silent film festival here in the cinema alongside all of the more modern digital projections. So this one is capable of fully functioning. Its colleague next to it here has gradually been cannibalized for parts over the years before the cinema closed to keep this one going. So this one isn't able to be brought back to life. But the enthusiasts who are helping us are confident that you can still get parts for these projectors as well if needed, so that there'll be no issue, there'll be no problem with us resurrecting that one. So this is really the business end of the cinema, if you like. You've got evidence all around you as well of when the cinema was built in 1914, of the safety requirements it had to meet. So we're surrounded here by what was the latest technology in terms of fireproofing. We've got walls made of a sort of plaster and bamboo mix all around us. You've as well got all of these apertures into the main auditorium had metal shutters that would come down in the event of fire, because obviously when this place opened in 1914, nitrate film was incredibly flammable, and fire was at the foremost of everybody's mind, and the license to operate as a cinema, was dependent upon the cinema picture house company meeting all of these safety requirements to protect the guests that came to see the films. So this is a great project for Paignton. The building is considered one of the top 5 cinemas in the UK by English Heritage. So there are few better than this in the country. And so we as Paigntonians, people of Torbay, can feel very proud that this is at the heart of our town. It has that special designation because of the quality of the architecture, because of its original state. What you see here is what people coming to the cinema in the 1930s and earlier would have seen. You have that same experience. And basically the effort and the quality of what's here and the way it's survived all mean that when this reopens, we'll be able to come to, and people will come from far away to come to one of the most beautiful, most elegant cinema venues in the United Kingdom, if not in Europe and the wider world. So it's a very special place, and the Trust are working apace to keep this restoration moving. At the moment in the front, we have about £500,000 worth of works in progress, cleaning up the stonework, restoring the stained glass. Those are funded by Historic England and the Architectural Heritage Fund. And we are just in the middle now. We've started a public consultation so that all of you can actually feed into us for the design team that will be put in place in January. You can feed back to us exactly your thoughts and feelings and what would be strengths that you want in this building when it reopens in 3 years' time.